Hello everyone, welcome back to MGM. My name is Jimmy, and today we'll be looking at an unboxing and painting guide on the new US Rangers kit from Warlord Games. Okay, these guys are essentially a remake of the old Rangers kit. The previous Rangers kit did have some metal options, including items such as bangalores, flamethrowers, pickaxes, and more. The box was made for 25 infantry. The new miniatures are all plastic and offer a variety of add-ons, and you'll be able to make a bazooka, sniper teams, and create up to 30 miniatures. The box is themed on Saving Private Ryan, and a variety of heads will allow you to create a squad like we saw in the movie, which was pretty neat. The set comes with a guide describing all the options in detail, as well as a recommended painting guide. You'll also get transfers, which I think is important. Today we're going to learn how to paint these guys up in a traditional painting method. As a side note, if you ask 10 different people, you'll probably get 10 different answers on how to paint them correctly or by historical accuracy. This video is intended to be a guide for how I paint them and nothing more. I hope you enjoy it. Please leave a like if you do. I started this miniature from a gray primer. After assembly, I did put a trench knife and one of the backpacks with his trench shovel on there. I also included a canteen. The first color we'll go with is Vallejo Khaki, and this is model color. We'll be using quite a few of these today from the Vallejo range. They do have an excellent historical range. We'll be using this to go over his jacket. I prefer using a lighter primer versus a black, as these colors will come out a little bit brighter. We are going to tone them down later on with a wash and bring them back to life, again using that traditional painting method. Now I'm trying to be neat here just for the camera, but you don't really have to be that neat in this step, as since we're using that traditional painting method, we're going to be painting over a lot of these colors, so if you happen to spill over somewhere else, it's totally not a big deal. With the jacket complete, we'll also use Vallejo Khaki to get the anklets that he's wearing too. Up next, we'll go to Vallejo US Dark Green, and we will get the pants. This is a color that goes on very well and will be an excellent base color for what we're going to do to these pants a little later. As a quick note, if you do see some white bleeding through, you can wait till this dries and go back and add another layer to tighten that up. And just like that, we're ready for our next color, which is going to be for the webbing, the backpack. This is going to be Vallejo Green Gray. Again, because we are going over a lighter color, these light colors that we're using tend to take a lot better than if you were going over a black, for example. You may need to use multiple coats. So here we are going to knock out his backpack, and then we'll spin the model around. I am going to get the cover on his canteen, and any kind of webbing material that he may have will be this color as well. Up next, we will go with Vallejo Brown Violet, and this will be used to get his helmet. I do like to start at the top and kind of pull the paint down, and just be sure that you're getting a nice even coverage across the surface. With that complete, we switch gears. We go to the Army Painter Crusader skin, and this is a speed paint. And the reason that I like speed paints, you could use a contrast paint if you're in the Games Workshop range. It just flows into the recesses very well. It provides a good base color to highlight up from later. If you did not want to do this, you could water down some flesh tones and put in there as well. For me, this just helps speed up the process and has become the way that I paint skin now. Up next, I go with the Army Painter Speed Paint Ruddy Fur, which I think is a little light for the color that I was going for. So if you wanted to make these a little darker, you could go with Vallejo Leather Brown. I do think some other speed paint options that were darker would have given me more of the look I was going for here, but this is what I used and this is what we're going with for this guide. Again, the speed paints do so well here to flow into the recesses on the miniature. I also used this color to get his rifle, as we're going to be highlighting this up with beige brown, and it will mix in with this base color very well. Depending on what options you've given your model, you could also use this color for the sheath on his knife if you had one on, and then you could use it for the wooden piece on the trench shovel as well. For pieces that would be more leather, I did use the Army Painter Speed Paint Hardened Leather. I go and get the piece on his rifle as well as the piece on his helmet. This is also a color that I will use on the trench knife as well for the handle. For bits that are going to be metal, I go in first with German Gray. This is a Vallejo color, one of my favorite colors actually, and I'm going to get those bits in this color first. We'll highlight that up in a later step. And with those steps complete, all of our base colors are done. This would be a great time to go back and touch up on any of the colors you've overspilled on, just anything that you would like to tighten up. Up next, we are going to apply a shade or a wash to this miniature. I did use the Army Painter's Soft Tone. This is a bit of a brown type of shade, and I am going to go over the entirety of the model with this color. This is going to give us loads of definition to go back in and highlight off of in the remaining steps. If you are not painting in batches, you do want to give this plenty of time to dry, as it is going to go down into the nooks and crannies and can sometimes take 45 minutes to fully dry. Also, this isn't a paint that you want to be very timid with. If it goes into the wrong place, simply use your brush to drag it around, and we're really focusing on getting it into all the nooks and crannies and into the details. And with that step complete, your miniature could be put on the tabletop in this form and be just fine for a tabletop standard, in my opinion. We are going to go a step further though and start to highlight some of these colors back up. If you used a wet palette, a lot of these colors will still be there on your palette. We are going to reuse a lot of them. We'll go in with khaki first, that original Vallejo color, and we're going to be highlighting his jacket. And what you need to pay particular attention to is going to be the tops of the folds. Try to stay out of the recesses where the wash has settled, but also think of where light would be hitting the jacket. That is where we want to apply this color, so focusing on the top. If you notice when I'm doing this, looking at his arms in particular, I'm not going underneath the arms, as that would be shadow, and this is really what helps us create that contrast. We don't want to forget his anklets as well, and for this I just kind of look at the back of the leg here. Any spots that you feel would be getting more light than the other, I just kind of touch this color in there just to simulate where light would be hitting the anklets. Up next, we go back to the US dark green, and very similar to the jacket, we are going to do the same thing, where we're going to be really focusing on the higher points on the pants and leaving the dark color in the recesses. Next, we go back to our Vallejo green gray, and for this I'm just going to be touching up on the webbing a little bit, kind of where light would be hitting the canteen cover, the tops of the pouches, and then we can get his backpack in this color as well. And very similar to the other two steps that we just did, leaving that shade or wash into the recesses, and we're really just focusing on the top areas. I do also go back with our original base color, brown violet, for the helmet, and starting at the top where light would be hitting, I just kind of drag that down just a little bit to simulate where light would be hitting the helmet and providing some tonal variation there. For the areas that we painted brown, such as the boots and the rifle, I go in with Vallejo Beige Brown and give a highlight to these as well. Up next, we're going to look at the flesh tones, and I go with a Vallejo Dark Skin, and I'm going to go through and get the majority of the hand, leaving that speed paint in the recesses. Now, I am one of those people where I do struggle with skin tones. I think a lot of us do, especially with painting faces. I'm not the best face painter. I've seen people on Facebook and other guides where people can paint eyes and things like that. I'm simply not at that level. For me, I want to be sure that I capture the nose, get the cheekbones. There is going to be a lot of shade underneath from the helmet. So really just focusing on those more prominent areas, the lips, the chin, things like that, that would be showing. And then for the hands, be sure that you get the fingers. If you want to continue pushing the highlights a little bit, I use one of my favorite colors, Vallejo Iraqi Sand, and I go through and edge highlight the very top of some of these folds. I don't go overboard with this because I do want the primary color to be khaki. But just going through and giving a very subtle edge highlight will make this pop out a little bit more. I will go through and do this for the skin as well, switching up to a lighter skin tone. This is Vallejo Flat Flesh, and what I want to focus on here is more of the knuckles, the tops of the fingers, and then really touch on the chin, the cheekbone, the nose, any prominent spots on the face. If you did happen to mess up in the step or get something that you're not pleased with, again, not a big deal. Go back in with your soft tone or wash, and it will kind of dull that back down for you to try again. Now I tackle some of the metal bits using whatever metal color you have. This is the Army Painter Plate Mail Metal. I go through and get the shovel, I get the handle, and kind of any bits that I had painted that German gray color earlier. I'm going to go back and just lightly touch on some silver. Up next, I do highlight the pants using the Army Painter Army Green, and this is going to be more of an edge highlight. And we'll, again, similar to the jacket, we don't want to spread this everywhere, but just looking to get the tops of the folds, simulating where light would be hitting. And with that, our miniature is complete. You can choose whatever basing material you would like. I decided to do this like my other US forces. I added some PVA, I had a brush and some water. I spread that around and put a little bit of grit, sand type material on there. Just simply sprinkle on from your bag or dip, turn over, and knock the excess off. The last step is to tidy up that base. I take my beige brown and go around the rim, and sometimes you need to get the top of these bases as there's a little rivet there at the top, and we will call this model complete. And here's the glamour shot. This model took about 30 minutes to paint, and I'm pleased with the result. I'm really excited for what's on the horizon for Bolt Action, with version 3 releasing later this year. You'll be seeing these US Rangers on the tabletop in a battle report very soon. I certainly want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it helped. Big thank you to the Supporters Club. Your names are on the screen now. It's by no means necessary. If you've watched the video this far, you've done more than enough to support my channel, so thank you all so much. We will see you in the next one. Take care.